So now that we are done with the user interface part of this, let's deal with the actual parsing of the data. So let me do this for a second here. I'll just hit search so I can get this data that I want here for reference, of course. All right, so once I have that, I need to go to my controller. So I'm going to go to the admin controller. There we go. And let's go to the product section. So here we have this part that says search is equal to true. And if we go down here, we'll see that this is the part where we get our product from. So this is the main query. So we must change this query when we have a, let me do this for a second here. When search is true, we must change things a little bit. So if we let this be here, I think for now, because we want to have an if statement, it's better the if statement is here, because this is where we have our limits and we have our offset as well. We want those to be functioning as well. So I'm just going to remove, anyway, I'll leave this for now. Let me just copy this search, and I will be here and ask if search, like that, because that's all we need to ask. If search, then we can ask, we can do this and put an else statement there, like so. Okay, so if search, we go through here. If not, we go through there. So let me copy this part and put it here, like so. And in here, I just want to add a query, like so. So now let me create the query. So this is the part that is very important, the query creation part here. So let's construct a reasonable query here. So this is the query we have here so far. Now it's important to remember that when we go to the category here to make the table, we actually don't have the category name in that make table thing. So let's confirm that by going to the models, and let's go to where is this, categories? Yes, let me go down to make table here, and where is this make table? So there's a part where we are using the wait a minute, this is category, load model, products, make table. Okay, so it's in the product, not in the category. So let's go to the product class, make table. Where is make table? Down. Okay, there we go. So we are sending in a model specifically to use to read and get one category there. Okay, so at this point we can get rid of this because we must, otherwise we'll have problems. Because the reason we're going to have problems is because this time when we are sending in a category, normally right now, this category is equal to a number. So I can show you this by echoing it out here. Actually, I don't need to do that. We already know that if I say get one here, I'm using the category ID here, not the category name itself, but the ID to get this category name. So we can get rid of this part here. This is the part we're using here as one cat. Now the reason I want to get rid of it is because when we send our data back, we need it to be we need it to already have a category name there. So what we will do is, let me just mute this for a second there. So this is in the product class.php, and let's do it the same way we did for brand name. So I'm going to expect a category name, just like we did for brand name. We created a new category and called it category name, but we are not using one cat, we are using category row. So this one cat thing is no longer required. So there's only one match, which is good, which means if we mute it there, then we are done. So at this moment now, it's going to cause an error because this does not exist. So let me just go back, and you see there it's complaining that undefined property category name. But that's okay because we're going to give it what it wants. So to do that, we come back here and let's go through our query one more time. The same way we are reading brands.brands as brand name, we can add one more category here. So let's put a comma and let's read one from, let's see, that one is category, right? So categories dot category, and we're going to call this one as category underscore name, like that. So remember that these are the columns that we want to read from here. Now, the same way that I'm using aliases here, where I say as brand name, I can also shorten these table names here to shorter ones. For example, I can reduce this to prod if I wanted to. Now I can do that by changing the name right here. When I say from products, I can just say as prod, like so, if I wanted to. And then I go where it says join brands. I can also change brand to as bra, like that. But brands is already small, short, so no need for that. But products, it's justified to change it to prod so that we can make it shorter. So once we do that, it means everywhere we are mentioning products, except for the first time here, except from the from here, I can change it everywhere to prod. So let me do that just here like that, so that we can just reduce the length of the query. So here as well, I can refer to it as prod. It will still work. Let's go here. Let me see what, okay. So since I'm introducing categories.category, I can also reduce this to cat, like so. So because I'm going to join it as well. So I'm joining brands on brand ID and prod ID. And also I can add another join here, no problem. So join, let's join categories as cat. Okay, so we are joining categories as cat on, because we have to tell it where we're joining it on. So we're joining it on cat.id is equal to prod.category, like so. That should do. So let me go back here and refresh. Hopefully everything is fine. So let me come back here, and you see no complaints anymore. We're still getting our brands, we're still getting our categories, and we are reducing the amount of code in here by getting rid of that. And this means we don't really need this model anymore. Yeah. So it's just a way to show you how another way you can do it. This one is much better. Okay, so now that we have this, the reason we changed this is because we want results from this main query and the results from the search to be identical in terms of the columns that are returned, etc., etc. So this is why I've decided to do it this way. Okay, so now let's create another query here that will do something similar. So at this point, what I want is create a query that brings back everything that is inside products, the way we have it here. We're not going to add any where clause just yet. So we just want it to return the result that resembles this part right there. Okay, so let's look at the columns that are required here for us to get, or the tables that we want to return. So first things first, the table we want to return is products table. We definitely want our results from products table. So let's go step by step. So I'm just going to say select or. Now, instead of or, we want to get all columns from the product table, right? So let's give it an alias of prod, and then we'll say dot star, like that, because we want to get everything. Put a comma there. And what's the next table that we want to get? Here we're getting everything from the products table, so nothing to probe. Let's go to the categories. We definitely want the categories table here. So what are we getting from here? We just want the category name. That's it. We don't want anything else apart from that. So that's the category column in the categories table. So we'll say cat.categories. No, category, that's the name of the column. Now the reason I've put prod and cat is because I will do the same aliasing that I did here just in a moment. So again, we put a comma there. And this time I'll say, what's the other thing we want? We want brands. That's the table name. Dot brand. That's what we need. Just that should be enough. So back here. Okay, so we are selecting from these guys. Now, in order for the query to work here, we must join them together. But first of all, let's add the from keyword. From. Maybe I should put these ones in uppercase just to make it apparent. So select prod.or, so all columns from products table, cat.category, brand. And so here I just want to say from products as prod. Okay, we've given it the alias, but we need to tell it, I think that's about it. Select from products as prod. Yeah, that's okay. Then let's join another table. Here we're going to join the categories table. Join categories as cat. Okay, now we need to tell it where we're joining it on. So on. Now let me move these a little bit lower so that we can see what's going on with the query here. So it doesn't have to go that far. So select all from brand, from products as prod, join categories as cat, and then we will do the on down here. So we are joining, so from products, I think, let me move this down here. Okay, so we are getting from products as product, then we join the category table as cat. So we must tell it where we are joining it on, and we're joining it on cat dot. On the categories table, we want the ID and is equal to. On the products table, it should be the category. Yes. And then that's not all. Let's join another table. Here we're going to say join brands as. No, there's no need to put as there because brands is such a short name. So we're joining brands on brands.id is equal to prod.brand. Okay, this should do actually. No more joins required here. Very good. But let's do the limit, and there we go. So order by, let's not do the order. I think we can get the order by as well. Let me just copy all that. Copy. Since we can maintain everything. So pretty much what we've done here, this query is exactly like this query. If you haven't noticed, let me remove this there. Okay, good. So it's exactly the same. The only thing that will change is the where clause, because that's where all the meat is. So just to see that we can retrieve data from this query, let's do that. And I will remove the show here, and let's go back here. So step by step, let's see if we can get some data. Refresh. And as you can see, we do have data here. Let me make sure that we're getting the data from that side, and I'll do that by muting this one right here, just to be sure. Refresh. Okay, so that's not where we're getting the data from at all. So variable products unknown. Cool. So let me remove that back. Oh, actually, before, while it's still muted, So this is working fine, because normally when we just refresh the page, we're supposed to get the data from the other side. But when I hit the search, now we get into something else, right? So we have a few errors here to deal with. And the first one is saying undefined property brand name. Very good. So this means things did work out well. So let's look at brand name here. We did not accommodate it. So here, yes, so cat.category should be as something. So let's say as category underscore name. And the same thing should happen on brands. We have to put an alias as brand underscore name. Okay, good. So that those two columns can exist as well. Refresh, and there we go. So things are working out now. We are using the get variable here. We are searching and data came back. But if we just load the page, we have this error because we muted the other query. So this query is not working. The one that's working now is this one. Pretty good. So the only thing missing here is a where clause right about here. So let's add a where clause immediately. But before we do that, let's exit this one here. I'll do this, exit, and then I will add to query over here. Copy, add to query, like so. I'll put a dot to make sure I'm concatenating. And the reason we're doing this is because we want to add a where clause here based on what the search results are. So I have to go through the get variables here. Okay, and let's do this here first of all. So I want to collect the variables that are present here. So let's start with just the description, right? So here I will add a description. Now what I will do here is say this. Description is just one item that we can get from here. So I'm just going to say description is equal to, we will check if is set, like that, get description. So if it is set, let's put that question mark there. Let's assign this to that part. I will put it here like so. Now, if you noticed on this other query here, we're not actually supplying any variables at all. So there's no risk for SQL injection here, but here there is risk for SQL injection. So we must supply variables to an array and use prepared statements. So here I'm going to assign that to this and then put a full stop there, and if there is nothing, I will put an empty string and do that. Okay, good. Now we don't want to be searching for an empty string, right? So here I will copy this description and just come here and say if, right? So I will say if, actually maybe what we will do here is okay, if statement will suffice just fine. So conditions here, I'll say if description is not empty, like so. So here, let's see, yes, that is okay. So if the description is not empty, at this point, we're going to add a where clause. So let me do the query. I'm going to say query dot equals. Remember to leave spaces there. It's better to have spaces in the query than to not have them. So you can have 10 spaces in a query like this, it won't care. But if you have no spaces, the text before it and after will combine, so you won't like that. That's why I leave spaces here, like for example there. So here we're going to say where we'll put a where clause. Let's use capitalization, where description is equal to, and then in this case, we won't sanitize the data yet. We'll change that in the end. I'm just going to say description, like so. Okay, description is equal to description. Now the description has to be a search, so we'll put wildcards here. And while we're doing that, let's change the equal sign to like, just like that. Now it has to know which description we are talking about here, because there are several tables here. There's the products table, categories, and so on. So we must make sure that we write prod.description like description, which is the text there. So let's see if we can actually get something here. So what we're saying here is that if somebody searches and they don't actually type something to search for, it's going to ignore this part, and then it's going to bring back everything as normal. So let's go back here and let's refresh. Let me just say search. So it brings back everything, you see. But let's try and search for a product name tradition, or maybe so good. Let's just type so and hit search. So as you can see now, we brought back so good. Very good. If I type something else, tredi, there we go. So we have tradition. So now let's refine the search a bit better in the next video.